Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. NPR reports significant uncertainty persists regarding the Strait of Hormuz as a ceasefire in the Middle East approaches its expiration. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps announced Saturday that the strategic waterway has returned to its previous state under military control, vowing to maintain restrictions until the U.S. lifts its blockade on Iranian ports. This follows President Donald Trump's contradictory remarks on Friday, where he insisted the U.S. blockade would remain and even threatened to start dropping bombs again if no deal is reached, while simultaneously expressing optimism for an agreement. The U.S. Treasury Department also extended a pause on sanctions on Russian oil shipments to alleviate shortages from the Iran war, a reversal from an earlier stance. The ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah took effect, hailed by Trump, but Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu stated Israel would not withdraw from a new 10-kilometer buffer zone in southern Lebanon. Thousands of displaced Lebanese are returning home despite warnings. Meanwhile, European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, met in Paris to secure long-term freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, emphasizing a strictly defensive mission. The ongoing conflict has severely impacted Middle East economies, with the IMF projecting significant contractions for Qatar, Iran, and Iraq. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir have concluded separate diplomatic visits aimed at fostering renewed talks between the United States and Iran. General Munir held discussions with Iranian leaders and peace negotiators during a three-day trip to Tehran. Concurrently, Prime Minister Sharif visited Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and diplomacy for regional peace and stability. The diplomatic flurry follows an initial round of U.S.-Iran peace talks in Islamabad that ended without a formal agreement, with a ceasefire in Lebanon due to expire on April 22nd. Further negotiations are anticipated in Pakistan in the coming days. The pressure for a deal intensified after Iran reimposed restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, accusing the U.S. of violating a prior agreement. Former U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly praised General Munir's efforts. Al Jazeera reports from Islamabad that all eyes are on the city for a potential breakthrough amidst significant remaining differences. LBC reports that counter-terrorism police in the UK are investigating whether a recent series of firebomb attacks in London are linked to Iranian-backed proxies. This comes after 3 men were arrested following an alleged arson attack on a Persian-language TV station in Wembley. Prior incidents include an attempted firebombing of a synagogue in Finchley and the setting alight of 4 ambulances belonging to a Jewish charity in Golders Green. A group identified as Harakat Ashab al-Yaman al-Islamiyah has claimed responsibility for attacks against Jewish organizations across Europe, including the synagogue incident. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Vicky Evans of Counter-terrorism Policing stated that all lines of inquiry remain open, highlighting an unprecedented level of national security investigations involving foreign states. Assistant Commissioner Matt Jukes warned that anyone acting out of hatred, racism, or anti-Semitism will face justice, with extra armed officers deployed to protect Jewish areas. According to Zio Sabah, China's Eastern Theater Command announced today that it is organizing joint combat readiness patrols in relevant sea and air areas of the East China Sea. This announcement follows yesterday's transit of the Japan Self-Defense Force destroyer Ikazuchi through the Taiwan Strait, which drew strong condemnation and a formal protest from China. Eastern Theater Command spokesperson Xu Chunhua stated that these patrols are a normal annual arrangement intended to test the troops' joint operational capabilities. He added that the Eastern Theater Command forces will regularly organize relevant military actions as needed for security. Yesterday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun accused Japan of having a dangerous plot to militarily intervene in the Taiwan Strait and criticized Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's wrong remarks on Taiwan. This marks the first time a JSDF vessel has transited the Taiwan Strait since Takaichi's administration took office last October. China has also recently issued navigation warnings for 5 large airspaces over the East China and Yellow Seas, interpreted by some as a prelude to military exercises or a move to deter Japan. Israel has agreed to a 10-day ceasefire with the Lebanese Shiite organization Al-Hezbollah, reportedly pushed by U.S. President Donald Trump. This move has ignited significant domestic backlash within Israel, according to a report from Joe Shinvin. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, keen to mitigate growing opposition and preserve his political standing ahead of upcoming general elections, is maintaining a hardline stance. In a recent statement, Netanyahu highlighted what he described as great achievements, claiming that 90% of Hezbollah's missile and rocket stockpiles had been destroyed and a security zone established in southern Lebanon. This emphasis on military success appears to be a strategic effort to deflect criticism that the ceasefire was brokered without fully achieving Israel's primary objective of disarming Hezbollah. Netanyahu himself conceded that Hezbollah's disarmament cannot be achieved tomorrow, calling for continuous effort, patience, and perseverance. The Prime Minister's position is particularly precarious as the U.S.-Iran ceasefire, which failed to halt Iran's nuclear development, was previously deemed a diplomatic failure and led to a decline in his approval ratings. With a general election scheduled by late October and corruption allegations looming, Netanyahu is under immense pressure to avoid another perceived failure. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.